And we are live. What is going on, everyone? It's Johnny Dunn, and we are back with another one. Today, Epic Veve live stream. Today, I just wanted to cover the Twitter Spaces that's going to go on today at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have Rhys from the Ecomi team hopping on Twitter Spaces. Hopefully, the Twitter Space audio works today. We have, like I said, Rhys coming on the Twitter Spaces today with Collective Shift CEO. They're basically going to talk about a little crypto overview, basically for beginners, but they're also going to be mentioning some OMI updates later on. So that's the real reason why I'm streaming this today. Shout out to everyone tuning in. We got Zachary Roy from the Palace. Work went well today, guys. Not bad, not bad. But really just wanted to hop on today, talk with you guys a little bit before, just about some updates that's going on. Also, we'll probably just dive right into it. Shout out to NFT Pirates and Foster Hilt. Great video, guys. If you guys don't know Foster Hilt by now, huge Omi whale. Kind of brought in Andre Jick, welcomed him into the community, I guess you could say. And I think also Dogecoin Millionaire. I think those guys, both of them, are in the Veve now. Kind of thanks to Foster Hilt. We got the Twitter Spaces going on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully it works today. A lot of times when I'm trying to stream these Twitter Spaces, the audio doesn't work, but hopefully today it will work. Worst comes worst, I will just play it on my phone up to the mic. But kind of just wanted to dive into the video right away from NFT Pirates, Foster Hilt. I watched a lot of this. I think I watched maybe close to all of it, like an hour, 15 minutes, but wanted to just fast forward a little bit. We'll probably watch about 10 minutes before the Twitter Spaces today. If you guys got any kind of questions or anything like that, feel free to just put it in the chat. Zachary Roy said he had a 128 person tournament to set up personally. I found that tournaments are actually a little bit easier to set up than, kind of clean them all up and everything like that. I've been at the course pretty late because of it some nights, but I have a lot of fun, man. I mean, I leave work every day in a great mood. It's a lot different leaving the work when I'm teaching. When I used to teach, I used to leave work miserable. But now it feels like I just got done golfing every single day, so definitely feels great. And it just allows me to play free golf. I haven't really even taken advantage of it just yet. Got the tournament coming up this weekend. Pretty excited. We got Veve Arcade in the house. How's it going, brother? Spider Zero, how we doing? How we doing, fam? Yeah, 11-hour day, man. That's a long day right there, brother. I just got in a little bit ago, so I'm like all over the place. I just wanted to make sure I had everything set up here. Like I said, worst comes to worst, I'm just going to end up playing it on my phone. For some reason, Twitter doesn't like when I go on the Twitter Spaces. It works for YouTube, though. You guys can hear this, right?
And I go, oh shit, I've got one too. I put that on my display. I'm going to be picked up in the fire. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be like, yeah, oh, what up, Neymar? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? People be like, oh, this guy has it too. And so it's like, if you have something that is exceptionally scarce, rare, popular, all that stuff, I just see it being in such demand. If it does turn out the way that...
Guys, if it gets close to 8:30 and I forget about it, just put it in the chat. I mean, I should remember it, but...
We see it, right? Like, I think we both have that vision. And you know what's funny is, like, even when you joined and I joined, around the same time, it was March 2021.
Okay.
Look at all his physical TODs. Shout out to False for all the TODs, man. That's incredible. He's supposedly got a lot of hate or something like that on Twitter for having more physical TODs than digital TODs. Whatever, man. Shout out to you, brother. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when I saw this, I was like, man, like, I had a vision of, like, it being huge. And then, like, little did I know they would sign Disney and Marvel and all this crazy shit happened. And so it's like, we're really halfway there in a sense. Like, we already had that vision, and, like, what's the next iteration from here, right?
Well, and that's it. And I mean, for those of you that get the opportunity and have the free time, like I said, like, when you talk about the vision and just being passionate about something, like, if you ever get a chance to listen to David Yu speak, who's, for those of you that don't know, the CEO of Ecomi, it's just the passion surrounding it.
You guys can hear this, right?
Like, you just listen to him, and it's just like, he just draws you in. You just want to listen to everything that he has to say, and you're just like you have a plan. And that's what I love about this project the most, is, like, they are, and I'll be the first to admit it, they're not the greatest at delivering on timelines. Granted, they've bungled that a lot, but they do deliver.
Facts.
And I think that's the important distinction that people need to be aware of, is, like, you understand the vision of where this could go, and even if it doesn't hit, the the $10 price point that you want for Omi, and Walt maybe doesn't hit $1 million like you hoped that it would. There's really no denying that on the balance of probabilities, this project will be successful, and in large part that's due to the leadership team that they have. They're not always perfect, and they do quite often make mistakes. They're human, just like, you know, you, me, Chad, anyone else. But at the same time, it's like, it just gets me so excited to listen to them, and I'm just like, you guys have the master plan, you got a key, and like, you know, what really got me is like little things that maybe people don't pick up on immediately, but like Disney signed with Veve in 2018. And
That's insane, man. 2018. And Disney signed not just a little part, not just Pixar, you know, not just one little bit. They gave their whole IP to Veve, man.
people don't really realize that and conceive and understand what that means. Understand that Rhys, who's the communications manager for Ecomi, didn't even see the platform, the actual Veve app, until weeks before it launched in 2020, at the end of it. And he was their communications manager putting out this information. Talk about the amount of faith that he needed to have in the team that they were going to deliver in order to have all those conversations with people, having not even seen it himself. The fact that companies like Disney, who were in talks with Veve in 2018, waited until 2021 to actually start to roll this out, it just goes to show you that, you know, I think as people, we're very tied into things, and we're very, you know, narrow focused, where it's like, hey, this happened today, this happened, and you forget the long-term vision that really exists in a project like this. And I'll admit it, when I first came into the project, you know, I was a straight up moon boy. I was like, yo, like,
I think we all were.
I invested. Day later, Andre puts out a video. We're going to the moon, baby. Like, I'm telling all my friends, like, yo, you need to get in on this. Like, I remember sitting in a parking lot with two of my colleagues.
We all were.
One day in April, and Omi hit .0005.
Your man.
So it almost hit a penny. So it had already done its all-time high, and then it was down. I got in at about .007, and it was coming back up. And I was like, boys, we need to get you an account. We're gone. And they're like, yo, we're all like freaking out trying to get them to sign up for Bit4X.
Those were the days.
And it's just funny to look back on those times, because like the conviction really hasn't changed, but it's just the outlook and the time frame in which we're going to get there in, right? And so I still get excited thinking about those times. I still get excited thinking about the future now, but I also feel like I'm more realistic and grounded about what we will accomplish and the time frames in which we'll accomplish them in. And so I'm just really looking forward to the journey, man. Like, it's just cool to see, you know, where we've come. And I mean, you were here,
really is.
You know, market was down for a month. We had one drop every 2 weeks. App super buggy.
It was to the point where people were screaming, like, when more drops? Like, people wanted more drops because it was only a drop like every other week type thing. Like, they had so many delays because there just was getting so many people in the network, like way more than they expected. So,
and laggy, like no announcement of Marvel, no announcement of Disney, no USPS, Givenchy, like all of these partnerships, like all like we were here before like there was really any reason to be here. And like so now it's cool to like look back on it, and like I see people complaining all the time on social media, and it's just like, you don't get it. Like you really don't get like
we're spoiled right now, man.
Actually come, and like in crypto terms, we're slow, but in business terms, they actually move pretty quickly. So like it's pretty cool to see like how cash out was never a part of the plan, and when I say that, people always freak out. Omi the NFT was always going to be the model that they were going to use for cash out. There was going to be a cash out, but they realized having a stablecoin or a gem in this instance would be better. So they integrated that. And to get a global money transmitter license takes like 24 months plus, like 2 years. And so they overshot when they thought they were going to be able to deliver it, because they announced in March, like, oh, we'll have
where's
cash out in
Rhys?
a few months. And lo and behold, it took like a year and a half. But realistically,
so the Twitter Spaces starts at 8:30 p.m., guys. So it should be in another 5 minutes. But I just wanted to throw on this Pirates Foster Hill video they put out just a couple days ago. Might have even been just yesterday. Or is it? I'm not sure where it says it, but yeah, just a couple days ago. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, NFT Pirates YouTube channel. Definitely one of the OGs in the community. And Foster Hill, you know, he's got a ton of Omi, huge Veve collection too. I think he's got like Walt's, four Walt Disneys. Crazy. So just wanted to put this on. I watched most of it, but just figured last before 15 minutes or whatever the case is. Pretty sure the Twitter space is going to start right at 8:30. But if it comes on early, just let me know in the chat, guys.
Outside of their terrible time frames, they actually accomplished something that takes a long time in a very short period of time relative to the scope. So I think when they really started to change their engagement around delivering on
I don't know why the audio is so
seen
bad.
a drastic improvement, and seeing MTL Cash Out come out when they said that it would. If we do see MTP and OUP come out in the next couple of weeks, like it's just a bunch of positive catalysts, and I'm really excited to see kind of where it goes from here.
Oh, jeez.
Are you ready for retirement? Personal Capital can help you find out.
Wow, brilliant, man.
Sorry, sometimes I get excited, man. Like I just and like and I think I really hope that people realize that, right? Like I feel like I try and be as like transparent as possible. Like I'm a 31-year-old dude, like got a wife, got a kid, like got a job, like I'm just a dude, right? I'm just like a talking head on a screen, and like I just feel like so fortunate to like have been able to like develop the relationships that I developed. Like even like going to New York like last month and meeting Randy in person was like a fanboy moment for me. I was like, oh, so cool, man, and like I can't wait for us to do like meetups and things like that. Like I just love being a part of this journey, and like people like think that I'm trying to sell them a bag of goods or whatever, and it's like it's cool. Like everyone's entitled to their opinion, but like I'm just so excited, man. I just can't wait to be able to look back again in another year and be like, yo, like we didn't see this coming, and like it happened, and they just knocked it out of the park. I can't.
It's so true. It like the biggest thing too is like I think for you as well. It started as like just passion. Like you're just like, how do I get the word out there to kind of like help the conversation and the growth? And I was like, obviously we were both invested, but it's just funny because like you said it perfectly before. It was like there was no really reason to be there, but yet we were there. And like I just remember when I bought Omi, I actually bought a .0027 originally in March. Like, and I was doing the same thing as you. I was looking for like the low cap coins that were going to move, and I didn't give a shit about Omi. I didn't even know what BB was. I just bought I put $5 into it because I had like all these shit coins that I was just putting all this money into.
Nice.
Okay, one of these is going to pop. And then
damn, it did like 5x for you then, I guess.
Yeah, it went from 5K to like 27.
What a find!
Grand, and then I used a lot of that money to go buy BB NFTs.
That right there is the reason why I think when Omi does go up a lot and we can buy these NFTs with Omi, that's why I see the value of a lot of these. Not every single NFT, obviously, not every collectible in the Veve app, but a lot of those popular, highly sought after, scarce items probably going to increase in value. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but we've seen it happen before, and history usually repeats. You know, as Omi starts to go up in value, what are people going to spend it on, right? Probably sought after collectibles.
But about like 18, and I was just like, now looking back, I could have bought like 150. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's so hard to look back and be like, oh man, like the things that you should have done. But again, like when I showed everybody this platform, people were laughing at me like, you just bought this digital thing, great? Like you're
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So
my friends still think I'm crazy. Well, I'm talking about looking back on things, and I always bring this up in interviews because I really have no shame. But like, so you're telling me that selling Spider-Man for $1,600 was probably not the best idea? Is this what you're saying? Probably in hindsight.
Like, so I had my wedding, right, and then I had my friend's bachelor and all this stuff, and then that was the same time as last year. It was like August, September time. It was like a big low period, right? And so I was like selling off like. Because I had all this shit. I had like 3 or 4 Spider-Man secret rare.
All right, we'll stop it right there. Let me try to get this Twitter Spaces to work, guys. Come on. Oh. Did you guys hear that? Sounds like it wants to start. Are they talking at all? What is that noise? Like it wants to go, but it just isn't. I wonder why it only works on my mobile. Let's go! Just takes a while to get going for some reason. Whew. You guys can hear this, right?
Everybody trying to eat tonight, trying to go to sleep, having good dreams tonight. You go home, it might get better. All I know, it don't last forever. So
sounds like Matt.
Gotta try to get a little more.
Is this Matt Miller?
Than I ever been before. That's for sure. Tell them what I do. Rap keep me fed like a spoon getting soap. I've been out here on the road, and now they missing me at home. All these extras
sounds like Matt Miller. Who is this? Someone tell me in the chat. I doubt it is. Is that Rhys with the... He's got jams. You guys can hear this, right?
All right.
There we go.
Give me 1 second to connect these headphones. Can everybody hear me? Ben, are you with us?
Absolutely.
I am. Rhys, that's some nice intro music, mate.
Thanks,
I enjoyed that.
Thanks, mate. A little bit of Mac Miller, a little bit of temper trap out there. Shout out to the legend.
Yeah, I'm in the mood now, mate. That was good. I need to do more of those.
Yeah, it's always a bit bland when it's just silence at the start. So
just an awkward silence.
Yeah. People coming in. I'll have to send that advice to Matt Miller.
You can hear Beer Man?
Sorry. Anyway.
How's things, man? What have you been up to?
Really good. Just getting on top of life, as we say. We just got back from London, so we were out there for DesignerCon. We're in a bit of a, I don't want to call it a Veve event, but it effectively turned into a Veve event.
You guys can hear it, right?
I saw the photos, mate. It looked like there's a lot of...
yeah, a lot of chaos, mate.
A lot of chaos,
but a lot of good times. And big shout out to everybody who joined us there, and obviously we have a few more coming up with New York Comic Con next month, and then another DesignerCon in California in November. So a bit of that. How are you, mate? I believe you did a TED talk recently.
Yeah, I did a TEDx talk in Melbourne last weekend, which was one of the probably biggest accomplishments personally. It was very, really difficult. Like it was, so I did it on why you should care about crypto and digital assets. Mm-hmm. And it was a 12-minute talk, and I didn't have any slides and couldn't use a teleprompter, and had to basically have my script, approved well before the talk, and I had to just basically memorize it word for word. And that's not really how I usually do my talks. I usually tend to riff a little bit more. So it was challenging, but yeah, really good. I had a lot of great feedback afterwards as people, for the first time, actually started to understand what all this sort of stuff is. What is this Ethereum thing you're talking about? What is a smart contract? What is Bitcoin? What is all this sort of stuff? So yeah, it'll be up on the YouTube channel, TEDx YouTube channel soon. And yeah, it'll be really cool to watch it back, because I haven't seen it yet. Watching myself, so it'll be interesting.
How do you feel when you watch yourself back on these things? Do you have those
I hate watching myself back.
You definitely I definitely have the cringe moments, mate. It's very awkward when you first start watching yourself talk, but I think it's 100%. The only way to improve, right? Like, you need to watch back and feel a bit uncomfortable and a bit cringeworthy, because you go, oh shit,
Like the beginning of this video. Oh, what happened here?
Your talk, but before we get there, for anyone who's joined us today and doesn't know who Ben is, he is the CEO of Collective Shift. We have done a bit of an introduction video together, which you can find on the Ecomi blog and on the Ecomi YouTube channel. Now, one little disclaimer, we are both Australian, so if we get to a point where no one can understand what we're saying, somebody please message me. It might run over there. just a little disclaimer.
I'm Tasmanian as well, so I've got an extra country slang to my accent.
Exactly. It's good just to work that in. And maybe just before we really kick off any of today's topics, we are going to aim this more at a bit of a crypto introduction. A lot of our community finds Veve and sort of comes through that front door into Web3 and into crypto, but not as many people really make it down the rabbit hole and into all of the other sort of investable assets that are available. So maybe just everybody in the crowd, just so we get a bit of a sense, maybe if we throw up some emojis, just some heart emojis or something, if you currently hold crypto. I just want to get a sense of whether everybody here has invested into something or does not. Okay, I'm not seeing a lot of hearts, so I'm guessing there's a lot of people that don't hold crypto.
I threw out my emoji.
Of the people who do hold some sort of crypto, and it's okay if you don't want to answer this, but keep throwing the hearts up if you are in a net positive position, so you have actually made money investing in this space as opposed to,
If you include Veve,
okay, a few less there. All right.
if you include Veve
I just think that's
NFTs,
a good fundamental, right?
I would say
a good
Omi,
grounding
I'm
that we
down.
can start from because there are so many. I guess you'd call them beginner mistakes in crypto, and I wish that I had a bit of a roadmap or a plan when I started investing in this space, just to understand it a little more before I went.
Let me know in the chat. What about you guys?
And Ben, maybe we'll kick off there. I don't know if you want to go on a higher level overview of your recent TEDx talk, but why should people care about this space? Why is it so exciting?
Well, I think we're on the cusp of one of the greatest wealth transfers I think the world has ever seen, and that's a pretty broad, big statement. And the reason I make that statement is because the first time through Web3, tokenization, decentralization, NFTs, for the first time, the little guy, you and I, Rhys, and everyone on this call, for example, has the opportunity to actually get in on the ground floor on some of the best businesses that are going to be sort of at the global stage in the next 10 years. If you look at any of the major Web2 companies, you talk about some of these big companies coming through, raising a lot of capital and going to be fantastic companies. The people that can invest into those companies are usually only sophisticated investors. You have to have a minimum amount of wealth before you can even get access to some of the best companies. And that hasn't been opened up through decentralization like ever before. Anyone on planet Earth, no matter your gender, race, sex, doesn't matter. It allows you to get access to, or income, doesn't matter. Anyone, my mum, my grandma can get access to these.
I agree,
crypto projects.
Cosmos.
At the ground floor, and I think that's one of the most exciting things because the big guys actually can't get into this space right now. A lot of them, the regulation isn't quite there yet. The market caps are too small. So the first time it's actually reversed. I think that's one of the most exciting things around some of the best projects that are coming out of this space, is it's just giving the little guy an opportunity to get in on the ground floor. And that's what I'm so excited about this space. And the other thing I think that, and on my TEDx talk that I was really talking about, is that a lot of people who think of cryptocurrency and digital assets, and it's this big, scary, wide world, and it's like a lot of bad stuff happening, you don't really know what it is. But the reality is we are already using digital assets in our everyday lives. Think of credit card points, frequent flyer points. Think about, in-game tokens. Candy Crush, for example, I use the analogy, or you're playing Fortnite, or you're playing NBA 2K22. You already are earning these digital assets. Just because something can't be touched, seen, felt, smelt, doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And
Exactly.
we're already using digital assets in our everyday lives. Cryptocurrencies are just another form of value that are allowing us to do different things across the world, and that's why I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And, we've just come off the back end of a huge bull market, right, in all markets, all financial markets and all of those things. And when things are that chaotic, I think it's really easy to forget why this started in the first place, right? And a lot of that really comes down to opening access to more people, right? Not just from an investing point of view, but from just the technical capabilities, right? To now be able to actually send money from one side of the world to another
Instantly.
and have that person receive it, right? And I don't know if many people in our audience at the moment are, in Singapore or Hong these kind of places where you tend to have a lot of overseas workers, taking these jobs, and they're sending money home, right? They're sending remittances back to their families and whatnot. And they lose 30, 40% just to send that money through Western Union or one of these money transfer platforms or things, right? So now not only are you opening access for investment, you're actually just making finance more equitable for more people across the world. And I think
that removing that middleman as well, Rhys, is one of the most exciting things. Like, giving value back to the end user without having, like, if you look at Bitcoin, for example, it's taking away the bank. It's allowing all that value to stay between one another. Or if you look at DeFi, for example, decentralized finance, like, we can take out a loan without needing to go to a bank. So those interest payments, that we're paying 4, 5, 6, I'm not sure what the interest payments are like over in Canada or the States, but here in Australia for a mortgage you're probably paying 6, 7, 8% now. You don't get that with your savings. Like, so where's that money going? Well, it's all going to the bank. It's going to the middle person, right? So with these decentralized digital assets, we're able to keep that value between one another without giving so much to that middle person that for so long has made so much money off the everyday person. And I think that is one of the most exciting parts as well.
Agreed. And to that point, I mean, that's why we see so much resistance from banks and from these mainstream outlets, because they know that their revenue stream that they have, stolen from us for so many years is about to disappear, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
exactly right.
It's part of that. And then, maybe just to extend that point a little bit, if people don't quite understand why we are able to cut out that middleman in terms of transacting in crypto, it's because it's all run by code. It's all smart contracts.
Shout out Kirisebi.
Once it's in there, all I need to do is send from my address to your address and it will appear. It's not, there isn't someone taking that piece of the pie. But before we go too far in that direction, let's start with some of the beginner stuff, right? Because I really think that these are important points to drive home with people. So, Ben, you've probably seen as many mistakes in this industry as I have. We've probably made every single one of these mistakes. Right? So maybe we'll start there. Just a couple of the common pitfalls you see in particular as people enter this industry.
I think education is a big one, and education is pretty broad, but I think really what it comes down to is knowing what you're buying is really important, and having conviction in the project. So obviously, in this room, there's a lot of Ecomi holders, and probably very familiar with your product and Veve. And I think showing up to sessions like this, you're 100% on the right track, right? Because you're wanting to learn more about the project, you're wanting to learn more about the space, you're wanting to learn more about the market, because this crypto market is unlike any other market. Like, if you've come from a stock market background, you've invested in stocks or property, or maybe you haven't invested in it, crypto is unlike any other market, right? It trades 24/7. Anywhere in the world can trade it. It's super, super volatile, right? And we see time and time again people coming into crypto think they're going to make all this money because they hear all these stories, and then 5 months later, the market crashes like it has done a number of times before. Like, we're in a bear market now, it's down 40, 50%, and then people panic and sell. But for those people who've been in space for a while, Rhys, like you and I, and probably a lot of people in this room, we understand that this is just a part of cryptocurrency. It's just a part of another healthy market correction. So now is not the time to be selling. Now the time is actually probably accumulating, because you're going to get a lot of those undervalued assets. And I think it's really people come into this space thinking they're going to get rich quick and make all this money, and they just go and pile in their savings, their paycheck into a random altcoin, and they get burned. And what I always say is start off understanding the assets you want to buy, really going deep, ask questions, find a community, find some friends you can talk to about. Like, you guys got an amazing community at Ecomi, like probably one of the most engaged audiences and communities I've seen. That's amazing, because you have these colleagues, these friends, these events you can go to and really start to learn and build your fundamental understanding. It's going to help you leaps and bounds. That was one of the mistakes I was early on looking to make, when I was like, I'm going to go buy all this crypto. I was like, no, Ben, let's take a step back. I spent 6 months getting my head around just Bitcoin to begin with before I invested, and I think that was one of the things that really sort of set me up for success, was not going too early. Because if I would have bought on day one and then understand what was going on, I probably would have lost this bunch of money, sold it, and never got back into the space again, because I was just being hurt and burnt. But take that time, really invest in your education, learn, consume as much as you can, ask questions, and it's going to set you up a lot better.
Yeah, completely agree. And frankly, I wish I spent 6 months learning about Bitcoin before. Like most people, most people come to this space because they have friends in it, right? Or someone invested. And don't get me wrong, 99% of people are just so excited that they want to share this with you, even though they may not fully understand.
That's how I was. I was sharing it with Gary Vee, everybody.
So, yeah, the 2 or 3 people that were telling me about it and that I trusted, I didn't want to do the research. I just wanted them to tell me where to put my money. It was like,
Right? Give me the answer.
Give me the answer. I don't want to do the work. Right? I just want to know where to put it. And aside from the pressure that puts on your friendship when things don't go well, it's just not a viable way to invest in things, right? And for me personally, I'm digitally native, right? Crypto native. I never bought stocks. I never bought, I never bought bonds or anything like that. So this, other than being my first foray into investing, was, crypto gives you the crash course on investing, right? Like a bear market in stocks or something like that, maybe you get a 5 or 10% correction, right? Whereas like a Saturday in crypto, you'll get a 60% correction. Like, it's that common.
That's a fact.
And to the point we made earlier, that is a feature because so many more people have access to invest in something now, right? In crypto, 100%. And you can invest with $1, $100,000. It doesn't matter. You have the exact same access, which people have never had before.
It's that ease of access.
It basically means you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of completely new investors trying to hit it big and throw money at this space until they learn the lessons, right? So it's, I think that just to drive that point home, be patient. You have
and it's a hugely emotional market as well. And humans are naturally very emotional people, like I am, right? And it's the reason why I don't trade cryptocurrencies. I don't trade. I'm a long-term investor. But I remember when I was first starting out, I'm not sure if you remember this, Rhys, when you first buy crypto, you get the portfolio app and you're probably checking your portfolio like 12 times a day, right? Yeah. You wake up, every minute you go to the toilet, you're refreshing where I'm at. That is super, super unhealthy, right? It's great in a bull market because you feel, like you're making all this money, but the reality is what it's doing to you is really making you really emotional. You can take over your life, like, because it's the only thing you think about. And if your market's down one day, you're probably going to have a shit day. So for me, I've gotten to a point now for probably the last 3 or 4 years, I just have my crypto assets on a spreadsheet and, I just probably check maybe, I don't know, once every 6 months, if that. Like, I'll check the prices because obviously I'm in the market each day, but I'm not tracking my portfolio and my wealth. I'm just tracking where the market's at, just from a content perspective, and that has really changed the game. Because if you're constantly checking your portfolio in a bear market and it's going down, you're feeling bad about yourself.
What up, fun?
You feel like you've lost all this money. You get that sick feeling in your stomach. One, you've probably invested too much, and two, it's just not going to do anything, right? It's not helping do anything, right? It's not going to change how many times you refresh your portfolio. If anything, it's just going to make you more scared and worried and probably make a bad decision. Yeah,
exactly right. And really that emotional downturn comes because you check it so much in the bull market and you're getting that dopamine hit every time it's gone up a little bit, right? And in a bull market, you can refresh that thing 12 times a day and your portfolio will be up every single time, right?
So true.
Your brain is getting used to it. And then when you do the same thing in a bear market, as you said, it's just a constant reminder of all the bad decisions you've made.
That's hilarious.
You have to take that, and you kind of alluded
it's the truth.
to it a moment ago. I think it's really important when you get into crypto to understand the different mindsets or different participants in a market, right? Because so many people say they're investing for the long term. But if that's the case, well, then you shouldn't be shaken by these day-to-day price movements, right?
Correct.
And so many people come in with absolutely no trading experience, no financial background, and then decide they're going to be a day trader, right? And for you to make money, somebody else has to be losing it, right? There is someone else on the other side of that screen, right? And if you're new to this space and you come in and you're looking at it like, okay, I'm going to learn to trade or I'm going to do this thing, well, you have to acknowledge that in almost all cases, whoever is on the other side of that screen has a hell of a lot more experience than you, or it's a bot. You're trading against algorithms, and those things are programmed to beat you.
Yeah, literally.
Facts.
And I think that where the pitfall there is, again, Rhys, is people are trying to make money too fast. People are trying to always find the shortcuts, and I love a good shortcut, right? Like, yeah, right. I'm a big believer in trying to get the fastest route there possible. But one thing that I've found that is the hardest and probably next to impossible to do fast is make money, because the faster you try and make money, especially investing in crypto, the probably worse it's going to get. Yes, there's going to be those 0.01% use case when someone gets lucky and they get on Shiba Inu or Dogecoin early, and well done them, good on you. But for the majority, you're going to find yourself in a really bad spot, because you're going to take these shortcuts. You're not going to do the proper work. You're going to get yourself caught up in some sort of something project that's not really actually legitimate, and you're going to get burnt. So trying to just be a bit more patient, accumulate, buy good projects, you're going to be better off in the long term.
That's it. And look, even the whole industry has learned more recently that just because something has a big market cap doesn't make it a good project. Right? I mean, if you're going through that CoinGecko list and you're seeing Shiba Inu in those top tokens, or Luna, for example, right? Luna had fundamental flaws in its design, but because the number was going up and everyone was excited, you have that social proof, and you think, well, if all these people are doing it, someone must have looked into it, and you just throw money at it, right? And usually every bear market, everybody learns that lesson again, right? And so I think that's a really, really important thing to take home out of that, right? Who's on the other side of that screen? Are you actually more experienced than them? And if you're not, then your strategy shouldn't be to try and beat them. Your strategy should be to accumulate and beat the market over time.
Totally agree. And questioning where you're getting, just sort of reviewing where
we got a troll in the comments
from, and it's one thing we're trying to do here, Rhys, with our partnership with Collective Shift and Ecomi, is that one of our values of Collective Shift is being transparent in everything we do. So one thing you will find with not all influencers, there's some good influencers, but most influencers, you really don't get that transparency. There's a lot of backdoor deals being done to be paid to promote projects that isn't actually actually transparent. A lot of influencers will talk about all sorts of different crypto projects. Maybe let's say 20, one of them will go on, 10 will go, we carry on showing us how great we are by picking one. What we really try and do is be transparent in all of our investments. We show all the research, all the education behind it, and all the reasons why. We won't take your money. Like, we don't take investors' money. It's all about, like, hey, this is what we're doing with our capital, and this is why. And you can do that with what you want. You can agree, you can disagree, but it's going to help you start to do your own research and start to better fast track your investment, I guess, thesis or analysis in simple terms. There's a lot of players out there that are really talking this language,
let's go Spider Zero
language that, to be frank, I don't even understand half the time. So we really try to really dumb things down for the everyday investor, because there's not enough of that, and that's why people are making so many mistakes, because it's just too confusing, this space.
Yeah, completely agree. And as you say, I've used Collective Shift since day one, but I have a whole range of places that I source my information from.
Yes,
it's not just you guys. It's
exactly
because your ultimate goal, once you get through the basics and you do understand a bit of the tech and some of the fundamentals and those things, your goal isn't to listen to other people. It's to collect that advice and make your own opinions, because that is ultimately what will give you the confidence in what you're investing in, right? And that takes years to get to. Right? I think that's important to make known, right? It takes a long time to really get to a point where you are confident in your own opinions instead
100%.
of what other people are giving you. But there's definitely places that are better to start at, right? And I try to drill this point home all the time, but I would rather pay a small fee for a monthly membership than just lose all the money that I'm trying to invest,
looking at it as an investment, not an expense, right? If you've got a portfolio of, let's say, $10,000, an investment into making better decisions with that capital could actually be could actually get you greater returns than with that money just into another altcoin, right? Because the information you have, the insights, to make those better decisions and also save you
That's
time.
what I'm doing
It's
too,
like,
Spider
you
Zero.
and I both know, Rhys, like, man, being full-time...
Picked up
in this
even
space is
another
not enough
job
time,
just
like,
for
let
this.
alone, you know, people that are trying to invest
Doubling down
on
on
the
Omi
side
right
to
now.
their sort of full-time jobs and different things. We're all busy, so... Yeah, it can be difficult, and that's where people make mistakes, right? Because they're rushed, they don't have the time, they haven't really properly looked into it. They've got this friend that said buy this thing, and all of a sudden, you know, you bought a bunch of this altcoin, you don't even know what it does, and you're just hoping for the best.
Yeah, completely agree. And look, that's probably a good segue just to talk about how you guys actually compile your information, right? We always say, you know, it's fundamentals, technical analysis, and sentiment. So maybe we can just explain what each of those actually is or is referring to. So, yeah.
Great question, Rhys. So in cryptocurrency, you've really got three key areas that you can analyze a crypto project. So you've got technical analysis. Now, what we try and do when we look at any of our projects in the crypto space is really try and give all crypto assets that 360-degree view analysis. And these three key areas is how we do that. So fundamental analysis is like, what is the company? What is the project? What are they trying to do? What's their product? How do they get their revenue? What are their expenses? How's their community, like the founders, the team behind it? What's their roadmap? Have they got venture capital backing them? You know, looking at their track record and really going deep on looking at it like a business, because most cryptocurrencies are businesses, and it's just a great way to look at it. So fundamentals is one. Then we can look at sentiment, and sentiment's a big one in cryptocurrency because a lot of crypto assets are driven by sentiment, and sentiment just basically is like people's opinion or emotion, or you know how much something is being spoken about. So if you think of a lot of the meme coins like Dogecoin and Shiba, they are very much driven by sentiment. There's not much fundamentals going on there. They're just a token that you're able to distribute to someone. And you know, if you look at the fundamentals, the
I don't know why it keeps cutting out.
tokenomics are awful. They can, most of them you can just print more tokens than in point. The founders tend to own a lot of the tokens, so they can dump them on the market. All sorts of interesting stuff going on there that I wouldn't touch. But sentiment, it really drives that. So looking at Twitter, looking at influencers, looking at what the community's talking about, that's a really big one. And then technical analysis, I use less of in terms of if there was ranking out of three, I use technicals the least. However, technicals do have a good ability to give you, I guess, a shorter term understanding of where the market's at. So we can look at things like trends, we can look at things like the RSI, things like overbought, oversold. We can look at different mechanics, because a lot of the bigger traders tend to use technical analysis, so we can get a bit of a picture of where an asset might be in the shorter term. But for me, fundamentals and sentiment are the core two sort of areas I'm looking at, and our team uses it.
Yeah, look, I'm exactly the same, right? I use some technical analysis from time to time, but because I'm not trading, I'm just investing, it has less relevance to me on the time frames that I'm operating on. I really enjoy the TA, especially the Checkmate does, where you can see, all right, all the news, all of the YouTubers, all of the influencers are telling you that we're going to 3K and it's the end of the world and all of these things. And then you look at the data on chain and you can see more and more Bitcoin going into long-term hodlers' hands, right? And you can see that supply squeeze starting to play out before anybody's talking about it, right? That's the valuable aspect for TA for me, right? Rather than totally here's this buy level or here's this thing. So, I think that they're such a great way to look at the market. And you do need to take all of those into account to make the decisions that you think are the right ones, without kind of giving that away. So very valuable, very valuable there, right? And
on chain, sorry, Rhys, to interrupt. On chain, you mentioned one there, I missed that out of. On chain is a great indicator as well. We use in our fundamentals where you can look. It's the beauty of the blockchain, right? It's transparent, it's immutable, it's not going anywhere, and you can really go deep on, who's selling what asset, when are they selling it? You don't necessarily get to know exactly why they're doing it, but you can create trends on are retail investors selling right now, or is it the whales that are selling, or are the whales accumulating, and why are they accumulating? And
it's like a lot of work Veve Fox does.
We're doing an upcoming webinar, which we'll talk about soon, Rhys, but I've got some really cool insights where you can go a little bit deeper onto some of the on-chain. And now it's a little bit hard on just a voice session, so I've got some charts and things we'll be able to go deeper on next time. But on-chain's a great way to analyze markets as well.
Yeah, completely agree. And as you said, we will share some details on that so that we can just give people a bit more depth. They can actually understand what you can see on chain, right? It fundamentally, all of these transactions are on chain. We're on a blockchain. So there's a lot of amazing data points that we can pull from that too, and we'll share some details on that. I thought we were recording this space. I'm not sure if it is recording or not, so we'll definitely share that afterwards, and people can join for that.
Someone should tweet Rhys my YouTube link.
One thing that I just don't see many people talking about that often when you get into crypto, and that is really just how to protect yourself online, right? I remember when I first got into crypto, the paranoid was setting up these Proton emails and all these kind of things, right? Do you remember those? Right? Like
Whenever someone has a Proton email, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what sort of guy.
Guy, right? Yeah, they're prepping. Like, so
Yeah.
I feel like I butchered the beginning of this video,
those
though.
things are necessary, but when you're taking your own finances into your own hands, which is effectively what you're doing with crypto, right? If you're storing things in your own wallets, there's just some basic online hygiene that I think is really crucial to people, right? Like, I mean, we're talking VPNs, using a password manager so all your things aren't all the same, two-factor authentication on exchanges and whatnot. And I would add to that, not using the text message version of 2FA, right? Because SIM swaps are a thing. People can.
I've got a story, Rhys, here from a member of Collective Shift. He was setting up his ledger to put his crypto onto his ledger, and he's setting up his seed phrase. And at the time, he was saving the seed phrase on his computer, so like a Word document. And at the time, he'd had it on his Google Drive, and we all know you should never, upload your seed phrase onto your computer or like have it online anywhere. So he sort of knew that, and he was like, okay, cool, but I needed to save it here, so I've just deleted it. I've gone, right-click delete out of the Google Drive. But at the time, he didn't know that Google Drive, Dropbox and the likes, actually stores those files after you've deleted them for 30 days. And there was a hacker that knew, however, no one knows, right? This is because hackers are very good at what they do. They knew that he'd actually just set up a ledger, and they had access to his drive somehow. They got his password. He didn't have two-factor authentication on. He got into his Google Drive, went into his deleted files, found the seed phrase, loaded up, and within minutes drained all of his crypto. Yeah. So I want to emphasize what Rhys said here. Two-factor authentication is ultra important for everything. Social media, I use it for everything, right? Super important. Get Authy or Google Authenticator. Authy, AUTHY, is a great app because you can get a backup code. So if you lose your phone or something happens and the phone gets run over, I don't know, something, you've still got a backup code, so you can actually load up your authenticator into another app. I've seen a lot of people don't have a backup and they lose their phone and they've lost all their two factors. That's a great way to do that. And never store your files onto Google Drive or Dropbox. Store them in a vault, like an online vault, like 1Password, or there's a few other ones you can use.
I like the move, fun. Wow.
Really those two things.
Yeah, and just to clarify there, store your passwords in that online vault. Never store your private key on anything that is connected to the internet, right? And
correct.
Maybe I'll just take a moment to explain the private key thing, because we sold a wallet. That was our first product, and most people are familiar with Ledger or Trust Wallet, for example, on their phone. So to begin, there are different levels of wallet security, right? What we call a hot wallet is anything on an online device. So if you use Trust Wallet, if you use an exchange and store your crypto on that exchange, anything like that, it's a hot wallet, right? And it is the least protected version of crypto security, right? Now, a Ledger wallet, the Ecomi secure wallet, those kind of things are cold storage, right? So what that effectively does is create an air gap between your wallet and the internet, which makes it much harder to hack. But where people go wrong is thinking that your crypto is actually inside that wallet, right? Like it lives there. If nobody has this USB stick, then nobody can touch my crypto, which is not the case, right? Your crypto lives on the blockchain. What that wallet does is provide you with a private key, right, which you never share with anyone, and that basically unlocks that location on the blockchain, for lack of a better term. So anyone with your private key, if someone gets it from your online files, if they see the piece of paper that you have written it down on, any of those things, they can literally plug that into any other crypto wallet and it will generate your accounts. So the most important part of crypto security, especially if it's your own security in a cold wallet, is protecting that private key. Right? And for anyone who hasn't seen one before, that's a 12 to 24 word phrase, right? It's just a bunch of random words that the blockchain spits out for you. So that is the most fundamental part of crypto security. You have to be careful with that. And then to add to that, I would say that, hackers are smart, right? You might already have a compromised account and they're just waiting to see you name a file ledger private key or anything like that, right? You'll get phishing emails. Here's one example for anyone who's new in crypto. You may not remember this, but Ledger, the cold wallet storage, somebody sold their customer list, all the emails, all the addresses, shipping details, all of that to the dark web, basically. Now, I was one of those, right? My emails got released, and honestly, 10 times a day, I get emails from things claiming to be Ledger, claiming to be this, your private key's been frozen, or your wallet's been frozen. Click this link to unlock, right? And if you're new to this industry, if you're tired, if you're in a rush, which most of us are most of the time, it's very easy to be caught out by something like that. Yeah. So just be aware that you will never, ever, ever need to give anyone your private key or enter it into anything online. The only time you will need it is if you lose the USB wallet or whatever wallet you are using to regenerate your own accounts. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, totally agree, Rhys. And it's these scammers are pretty, they're pretty good at what they do, unfortunately. Like, from duplicate websites, buying Google ads, doing anything and everything they can to try and get your money. So just, we don't need to be paranoid. I don't think we don't need to be too, frozen. And it doesn't mean you can't do stuff in crypto. By all means, do it. But let's just
be safe.
Just be careful. Take your time. Set some time aside to do it when you're moving money or trying to buy things. Just don't be like Rhys said. Don't be rushed. Don't try to be doing two things at once. Just be focused and take your time and follow some. We've got some free educational stuff on our website if you need a hand, like how to set up a ledger, how to use MetaMask. All of that, so it's all free, and I'm sure Ecomi and Veve has some stuff like that too. So just take your time.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice. It's especially in a bear market, right? The scammers tend to go away when the prices go down because it's just not as lucrative. But as soon as prices go back up, you'll see it. You'll see it all the time.
That's so true. It's all about money.
Just one more thing that I kind of want to cover. I want to open the floor to questions so people can have a chance to ask us anything as well. And we will share some webinar details. But I think one thing that is really good to get your head around in crypto is this concept of time cycles. Right? And at the moment, at least, crypto seems to move in these 4-year cycles. But within those cycles, there are better times of year, right? September, historically, is a shitty month for crypto prices, and being aware of these things can help you make better decisions, right? And if we take September, for example, right, it's the end of the third quarter, so all financial markets tend to rebalance their books, right, which can lead to sell-offs, which inevitably leads to crypto being more spooked than it needs to be. Because people follow all of those things. So, I don't know if you want to dive into that, Ben, any advice on really the time frames that we operate to in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin halving, like Rhys said, these 4-year cycles are really a good indication of where we sort of sit in any one time. And we're less than 2 years away now, so we're on the downward slope to the next halving, which is going to happen, I think, in 2024 or somewhere around there.
Yeah,
about that, yeah. So that really gives a good indication. It's usually 3 to 6 months either side of the halving as we start to get sort of prices coming back and we get media talking about the halving. And what the halving is basically just the amount of Bitcoin that's created halves, so the supply reduces and starts to create a little bit better token economics from a supply and demand perspective. So right now, being in the middle of that cycle, it's a great I guess, accumulation period. We do have these sort of months around the year that we tend to have pretty poor prices, especially around September and also around just like when the US are, coming out of their summer holidays and sort of back into work, have these little periods of time. So, for those that are wanting to buy, these typically is good periods of time to accumulate because we get the market correct. All the
I like this move.
Out of crypto, they go back to their
Big
real jobs, and there's not that much excitement. And for me, I was mentioning this other day at a conference. I was saying, where you can really gain an advantage in a market is investing into areas, tokens, projects, trends that aren't popular right now. If you're investing into an area that's absolutely going off, it's bull market, it's very topical, it's very trendy, like gaming and metaverse, for example, a while ago, or NFTs at the top of the market, that's usually the wrong time to be buying. Where you want to be buying and investing is during periods where there isn't excitement, there isn't FOMO, there isn't people going crazy over that area you're in. If you can accumulate during a period before that happens, that's where you're going to make some good investments because you've gotten ahead of the majority. And like we said at the start of this spaces, Rhys was saying, there's always a winner and a loser in this market. You need to be in the minority. You need to be investing when the majority are not, and you need to be selling when the majority are not. So it's a little bit backwards, right? When everyone's buying and selling, that's usually the time to be... when everyone's buying, that's usually the time to be selling. But when everyone's selling, like now, usually the right time to be buying.
Yeah, agreed. You really do have to...
Might have just answered that question, Cosmos.
Because when everyone is fearful, like now in a bear market, it's all bad news. So buying something, it's really counterintuitive, right? And this isn't fun. We're not suggesting you go out and just start throwing money at crypto. We've got plenty of time in this market, but that is kind of where you need to get to because most people come into this space when numbers are going up. Right, and I've seen this cycle play out. Ben, you've seen this cycle play out, right? And it will time and time again until we get to a point of adoption where the volatility is gone, right? Now, I think we're 10 years away from really reducing that volatility down to, the same as equities.
Probably right.
But between now and then is nothing but opportunity if you take the time to learn about this space. So at least that's where I see things, So. Perfect. All right, Ben, you want to share some of these webinar details? How can people join us next week, and we'll go through this again probably and show some more visible content?
Yeah. So Rhys and I have been chatting for everyone on the spaces, and we've got a really exciting free little crypto webinar, masterclass, whatever you want to call it, next week. So it's going to be at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Monday, the 26th. Next week. So basically, not Monday, it's going to be Tuesday. Tuesday, September 27th, 9 a.m. at Pacific time. We're going to drop a link here. So I'm not sure how we can drop a link here.
I might be in the chat, I think.
So basically, you can go to collectiveshift.net/registration-ecomi. Now, I know that's a little bit long, so we'll try and drop it in the chat here if we can. But basically, for an hour or so, Rhys and I next week are really going to go a bit more deeper into investing strategies, where the market's at. We're going to go through some charts around some different assets that we're liking. We're going to go into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and really get a little bit more deeper on where the market's at. Really giving a good 360-degree view of the fundamentals of, setting up a good portfolio. We're going to have some mock portfolios you can look at. So I'm going to be talking about a beginner investing strategy. I'm going to be talking about an advanced investing strategy. I'm going to show you a chart that we've been looking at that's really, really exciting. It's basically going to give you an insight as to where we are right now. Historically, this chart has shown that, it's only happened 5 times where we've gone into this area of the market where we're just about to follow a bull market. We've just hit that point for the 5th time. So really exciting. I'm going to show you that chart as well. We're going to be doing
I agree with this, Spider.
And really just giving you everything we've spoken about here, but just in a more of a visual format, really giving you a step-by-step strategy to getting, getting a little bit more deeper in the market, sort of getting yourselves sort of, in a bear market. Because I think now is the time to educate yourself. Now is the time you can really get ahead of most other people that have disappeared from this space. So, that webinar is going to be Tuesday next week, 9 a.m. Pacific time. collectiveshift.net/registration-ecomi. And
that should be it. I did just drop the link in the chat, and I have pinned it to the top of this space. So
awesome.
you should see
Completely free, yeah. So completely free. That's next week. You can just go in there and you can register. So you get a notification. You'll get an email just as a reminder because we're all busy. Looking forward to that. Rhys and I will be there next week to
continue the
see you all
conversation.
there.
Yeah, exactly right. Okay, Ben, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we sort of open the floor and have a little conversation?
No, man, that's been good. Hopefully people found it valuable. Let's get some Q&A going.
Agreed. All right, let's do it. Austin, I know you've been waiting for a while. Emmy's on forever. Oh, and Dave in the crowd. All right, let's go. Austin, you have the floor if you are.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Oh man, Austin, how we doing, brother?
Hey, how's it going? I had some questions. I've been doing my own research in crypto for a while now. When I started looking into stablecoins, it's kind of where I'm kind of iffy about. And so I'm still learning. Do you guys have any insight on like CBDCs? That's kind of where I got off track and not fully understanding the whole centralized, decentralized thing. So if you have any insight, that'd be good.
Yeah, Ben,
That's
you
good.
want to take that?
Yeah, good question, Austin. So, for those that don't know, CBDCs are basically central bank digital currencies, they're calling them. And really what they're doing here is creating their own form of, a digital currency to issue to, different people within certain countries. I know China's working on one. I think Australia's working on one. A few countries are working on them. And the real core difference here is that they're not true cryptocurrencies, right? So central bank digital currencies are, the word sort of is in them, is they're centralized. They're owned by the government. They're controlled by the government.
No.
And they have full visibility on
Stefan
people's
Diggs
assets. And I actually think
going
I'm pretty worried about it, to be honest. I am not I'm not a fan of them whatsoever. It's really important to understand that they are not true decentralized cryptocurrencies. They are the opposite, right? So most stable coins in the crypto market, like Tether, for example, is a decentralized stable coin. There's no government control. There's no one form of ownership. You are in complete control, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. So for me, I'm not a fan of them whatsoever. I think it creates this really interesting time where governments are going to have full visibility on what people are doing with their money, when they're spending it, what they're spending it on, which is a really scary time, right, from a privacy perspective. So, I'm not a fan.
Inevitable.
I'd be really sticking to your Tethers and USDC. USDT is a great stable coin as well. So, I'm not a fan. Rhys, I'm not sure about what your thoughts are on CBDCs.
Yeah, I guess I've got a couple of points there to make. So, as you said, USDT and things like that are decentralized, but they are still governed or controlled by a centralized entity, right? There is an overseer, like USDC is Circle, which is the same as Coinbase and things like that. Now, for the most part, you're never going to have to worry about this, but some of them, like USDC, they do have the power to blacklist your address, right? So even though you might hold USDC in your own wallet, they can basically sanction your address so you can never send it out again, right? They effectively render your money non-existent. Now, I don't think that the crypto industry has successfully achieved a truly decentralized stablecoin, right? One that can hold its peg and has enough value backing it that it's worthwhile. But I do think that stablecoins are one of the best use cases for this crypto payment technology, right? It makes international trade much easier. It makes personal transactions much easier. So, I really do think we're going to see stablecoins climb those market cap rankings and maybe even outdo Bitcoin and things eventually. When it comes to CBDCs, and just to kind of add on to your point there, Ben, it is very scary to me. And I will not support these things at all because it really does give governments the power to cut off your access to money, right? And if we take the last 2 years as an example, in Australia during the midst of COVID, you weren't allowed to be more than 5 kilometres from your house, right? Now, if the only money we were using was a central bank digital currency, they can quite literally enforce that, right? They can stop you being able to spend your money 6 kilometres from your house or things like that, right? So I think that's one thing to be aware of as to how much power we would be handing over. And to add to that, and I'm ashamed that this is the Australian government, they've tried to do this a few times. I think we'll see most countries around the world try to ban cash in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And the Australian government tried to do it last year.
Wow.
And they tried to sneak it through on the back of another bill and say that it was, what they said that it was? It was to cut out the black market in Australia, like tradesmen doing cash work and things like that. Now, when you look into the numbers, I think Australia has the second smallest black market for services and goods in the world, right, or something like that. So it was like the most bullshit reason to try and ban cash, right? And literally they were trying to limit your cash purchases to $10,000 because anything over that, if it's digital, they can track. And there was a caveat in the bill that said they could reduce that number whenever they felt like it, right? So it would have started at 10 grand. Before you know it, it'd be 5. Before you know it, you can't spend cash anywhere. So, just things to be aware of there, that there is a very serious agenda behind central bank digital currencies. And it's one that I will certainly
Power
be
is
opting
crazy
out of.
too, because once they give it
Very
up,
much
they don't take
against
it
the
back.
ethos of, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, right? Like, yeah.
I heard about one called DAI. You heard
yeah.
that one? I think it's collateralized by Ethereum itself.
It
I
was.
thought that was pretty. It was. Okay.
So DAI belongs to the MakerDAI protocol, and originally was only backed by ETH, right? But the difficulty trying to maintain a peg to a fiat currency with a volatile asset, it was obviously too hard. And now what they've actually done is backed DAI now. I think, Ben, you might know the number, 60% backed by USDC and USDT, which basically are, they're not entirely centralized, but they may as well be for the powers. So, here's the worst case example. Circle, or the US government, requires Circle to blacklist a bunch of addresses that are holding, of USDC. If one of those is the collateral backing DAI, everything in DeFi will fall apart, right? Because DAI is so integrated into the ecosystem. Wow. So, I used to really like Maker and the project. I really liked the things they were doing. They were really groundbreaking when they first came out. They were kind of the OG DeFi project. But then they got VC funding and started backing it with centralized stablecoins, basically. Ben, do you have an opinion there?
No, not really, Rhys. I haven't spent too much time with DAI. I mean, they were pretty big back in 2017 or 2018, but to be honest, I have not looked at them in probably over 2 years.
Tired.
I think, as you mentioned, Rhys, there's sort of risk in everything, right? And there are these bigger organisations that are sort of owned.
Energy, how we doing, brother?
So you've always got to be aware of that. And I think one good counterparty strategy is to just even hold a few different stablecoins as well. Like, we saw a lot of people lose money in the UST stablecoin recently. And, I think, again, people putting in way too much money they're probably willing to afford into one crypto asset. We've got to remember that a lot of these cryptocurrencies are still very early days and untested business models. So split your assets over different assets, just to sort of reduce that risk. I think it's a good way to go about it.
All right. Thank you guys for answering my questions.
No worries.
If Rhys ends up retweeting this stream,
who we got? Omi's up forever.
hopefully the beginning wasn't too bad.
You may have to unmute.
Like I said, I just feel out of sync not doing the live stream so often anymore.
Maybe listening at the moment. Dave, you want to jump in there and then we'll come back?
Who's that? Omi's are forever?
NFL champion. You can hear me still, Ben, right?
Yeah, I think they've requested just go and grab a coffee or something.
Twitter messes up audio so bad.
Okay, I have no doubt he will have a question for us. I'll come back. You start going a little crazy when you hit a song.
Is anyone there?
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's even working for me.
Hey, what's up, Rhys? What's up, Ben?
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. So I've got like a kind of a slight of a two-part question. So it's going to be towards both yourself, Ben, and Rhys. So one of the kind of big topics within crypto that a lot of people, I would say probably when they are more deep into this space, kind of start to understand, especially if they've been following, what's been happening with Ripple and the SEC for the past coming up to 2 years now, actually, is compliance. So a lot of people, and I see a lot of like big projects as well. They have, you know, there's a lot of kind of gray areas that they're operating in, and there are some areas where I'm like, oh, it's not going to be too big of an issue. But then there's some where, you know, the token hits many points where it can be classified as security, and that can cause a lot of problems down the road. So my question towards Ben is, do you provide kind of support for understanding regulation and compliance around cryptos, or like the kind of main things that people should look out for? And just following on from that, more towards Rhys, is I know that the OMI token as well, there's been a lot of kind of like due care involved in ensuring, you know, the OMI token operates as a compliant token. And I noticed that Rhys did leave a comment on Twitter saying if people listening to this AMA might get a little bit more of an update around OUPV3. And I know there's some features around it that might might make people feel a little bit more excited when it comes to certain things related to compliance, such as the paused buybacks. So yeah, that's my kind of question is, do you cover kind of compliance stuff, Ben? And Rhys, OUPV3, please.
Yeah, I can go first, man. So so Nick, our senior research analyst, he is our macro governance man. He's actually got a background in policy, so we tend to cover the, I guess, governance structures, policy in our membership platform for our members semi regularly. I think I'm definitely not an expert in that space. That's why we brought Nick on. But I think for me, the way I look at it is that governments tend to work pretty slowly, and in this space there is, as everyone knows, there's a lot of grey areas. And for a lot of governments around the world, obviously different countries, but a lot of them are still, they work very slowly when it comes to actually trying to figure these things out. So in terms of investing in an asset, I know like Ethereum, for example, like now they've gone to proof of stake, they're starting to discuss security. I think the reality is a lot of these conversations are just conversations, and we're going to get a very, big warning ahead of time if that changes for whatever reason. So you can use that information and, do that with, what you please, right? It's not going to come out tomorrow, and all of a sudden it's this crazy thing, and now like all cryptocurrencies are securities, and like and it's all over, and like that's not going to happen.
It's all over.
Governments work slow, and they give proper warning, and it comes out in the media, and there's a lot of discussions happen, for a long time beforehand. And I'm not too familiar with what Rhys is doing in terms of the Ecomi token, but for the best projects, they invest a lot of money into legal teams to make sure that they're doing the right thing, right? So as long as you're investing into good projects, I believe anyway, that you're going to have the time on your side to change if the governments come out and start calling different things securities.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And as you say, there's a lot of grey areas because there just isn't much regulation yet, right? There's not a lot of clarity, and we see the SEC take that path of backwards enforcement instead of actually outlining what they consider to be acceptable and not. In the case of Ethereum, I think there's a bit of a stipulation with US security laws that if something has been lied to the public, I think it's 7 years, maybe it's 8, and they haven't brought some sort of case for enforcement against it, then they can't, right? So there are some little loopholes there, but I think what most people have seen recently is this Tornado Cash thing, where for anyone who doesn't know what Tornado Cash is, it's a cryptocurrency mixer, right? So everything on chain is traceable, right? If you send me something from this address to that address, I can see it. I can see it in 10 years' time. I can follow every single transaction from that point. Now, the idea of a cryptocurrency mixer, or at least Tornado Cash, is that you would send it in, it would mix up the transactions, send it back out to a different address, and basically put a break in the chain, right? So that you couldn't trace it. Now, there's a lot of reasons people would want to use one of these things, namely privacy, right? You don't, like, say I was receiving my wage in cryptocurrency, right? I don't really need people to track every transaction that I ever make from that point. So I might consider sending it into Tornado Cash and then to another address. And a lot of people will use a centralized exchange to do exactly this. Send it in, send it out. You can send it to a different address. Obviously, the exchange has a record of that, but the general public wouldn't be able to find it. But of course, as with all things, Tornado Cash was also used to launder money. right? And a lot of these hacks and scams that happened in crypto ended up being funneled through there, and they ended up sanctioning pretty much the whole protocol, right? It's the first time in history, I think, that any government has sanctioned open source code instead of just addresses and those things. Now, the fallout from that is less severe than what people thought, but it is something that you kind of have to be aware of, right? There is going to be, there is going to be regulation, right? And to bring it around to your second point, Kay, with the OMI token as an example, we have been incredibly careful with this, right? I mean, even our token sales and all those things, we didn't sell anything to anyone in the US. From day one, we've kind of had to have all of these guardrails up because there isn't any clear stipulations around it. The second point is, depending on the classification of your token, right? For us, it's a utility token. That gives us a bit of leeway when listing on exchanges. But to even list on an exchange, for example, you have to provide a legal standing of your token, right? And you have to have, as Ben said, you've got to have legal teams. They have been through everything your company has ever done with that token to establish that, yes, in our opinion, we would consider this a utility token, and you need those kind of things before you can really branch further into the industry. So, it's something we have always erred on the side of caution with, and will continue to for that exact reason, right? If we provided some sort of false document to an exchange and then got deemed a security, well, then it opens a whole realm of litigation that we could possibly face. So, there's a lot of reasons why we tread carefully there. Now, what else what other point did you make, Kay? Something?
It's related to, we know that the OMI had a bit of a blocker in terms of the buybacks due to the uncertain clarity, and you left the comment that not many people, well, I think a lot of people picked up on it now. He said if we listen to this, we might hear a little bit more.
Ah, yes, the old sweeten the deal trick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll link you something from the OUB. That's fine.
Let's go.
Ben, just so you have a bit of context, we have a entire
We getting
UGC
some
plan
leaks
coming out that adds a whole bunch of new features for the OMI token and the way you can use it in the Veve app, and everyone has been waiting incredibly patiently for that to come out. So look, I think in the first version we mentioned something to do with tickets, right? So you could, I haven't seen the first version we released for quite a while, but effectively you could burn OMI to add more chances to landing a drop, right? Or something like that. So what we've done in the new version, that original design is what we're now calling the bronze ticket. And we have two more ticket types, a silver and a gold ticket. And that might be all I say about this for now, and just see where the speculation goes. Does that suit you, Kay?
I'd like to say yes, but I'm going to say could have been better.
Look, I will actually probably be strangled if I release too much information on that front. But I'm very excited to see what people think the silver and the gold tickets are for. I will confirm that you get them as a staking reward. So that's there. And the bronze tickets will be open to everybody to use and participate in, at least in the plan as we have it. So looking forward to revealing that and all the other components of the OUP. I'm not going to put a date on it, but it is around the corner.
Around the corner, let's go! I love you just used around the corner instead of soon.
OMIs are forever. If you are on the stage, return from the coffee break.
I don't think Twitter audio is working for some people. The spaces is jacked
Dave,
up.
you on the stage, mate? Looks like we're still missing those guys. Okay. Assuming everyone can still hear me. Nick, did you?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, mate. Perfect.
Hey, yeah. So I just want to say thanks, guys, for all you're doing. This is an exciting company that you guys are building, and just from I've been in for maybe 6-7 months, and love what you guys are doing. So just thank you on that. My question is kind of coming back to the stable coins.
Around the corner.
The Luna collapse happened, and everyone was talking USDT is going to get hit, USDC is going to get hit. Hypothetically speaking, let's just say, 6 months down the road, they do come after USDT or USDC. What happens to OMI, and what happens to, obviously our tokens are still safe and fine, But if we can't buy, let's just say with USDT because they take it down or something happens with that, like what happens on the Ecomi side? And is there like a secondary option that you guys already have in place just in case that happens?
Yeah. Look, I mean, just from a general principles point of view, exchanges can list against other tokens. Right now, we're ERC20. If something happened to USDT, they could probably list against ETH pretty quickly and easily.
Gotcha.
And they're obviously incentivized to do that because exchanges make money when you're trading, right, or buying things. So there's always those options. We're definitely working on other access points for OMI specifically, like within the Veve app and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But if something were to happen to Tether, say, or USDC, it's, for one, and I want to make this clear, it's definitely not the end of crypto, even though that's what you'll see everywhere.
Yes.
If these things happen, but it will have a big impact on the market, right? You're talking collectively with Tether and USDC, $110 billion of value or something, right? So if something were to happen to those, that's what would happen. But by the same token, I mean, they're businesses that have now run very successfully for years. They have legal teams. They're making sure that everything they do checks the boxes, and theoretically, both of those currencies are backed by cash or cash equivalents. So, theoretically, there is a redemption mechanism, right? At least for Tether, you can cash back into actual currency. So even though it would sound bad and everyone will tell you the world's ending, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Ben, do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah. Sorry, my mic. The only thing I'd add on that is that, the crypto market has had some pretty bad things happen, right? Like, look at Luna UST. That was a top 10 project, $30 billion of value, just completely wiped out in like a day. And 3 months on, sort of no one really remembers it. So the space has an ability to move on pretty quickly from these events. We live and we learn. And like you said, Rhys, a lot of those stable coins, with Tether at least, has that $1 sort of backing. So there would be a lot of commotion, but they'd work through it. And then there'd be another stable coin, right? Like, that just is what it is. So and there's also more than just one big popular stable coin. So if there was a little bit of fear in the market, like there has been, people tend to just move on to the next thing. I don't think it's it would be bad in the short term, just like the Luna UST event, but better for the long term because we just create better models, better stable coins, better crypto assets.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And you did raise a good point there, Ben. Actually, that people forget and move on pretty quickly. People in crypto forget very quickly about all the pitfalls and all of those things, especially when the numbers start going up. So, if you're in the market right now, remember what it feels like when prices are going down. Remember this moment because you're going to need that to take profits at the top.
Yeah.
Veve corners like a NASCAR turn.
I had to.
Hilarious.
When ready.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. We've got one more that I'll bring up on the stage. Veve, Omi, my homie, and then we might wrap it up, Ben, and let you get on with your evening.
Veve corners like a NASCAR turn.
Not much time yet. I'm just kicking off.
Okay, perfect. Well,
I need more of your intro.
Let's go.
I need more of your intro music, mate. Keep it going. Let's get back to that.
Yeah. I'll send you the playlist.
Thanks, man.
And just before we get to this last question, guys, a reminder, the webinar link is pinned in the top of this space. I dropped it in the chat. And I'll obviously spam our socials with it over the next week anyway. But that is next Tuesday, 9 a.m. PT. And we will record that. Obviously, people have jobs.
Let Rhys know that this is being recorded too. Someone should tweet him the link.
Yes, people have things to do.
Even though I feel like I messed up the intro.
My homie, you got the stage. You might need to unmute if you're
Hello?
There you go.
Great.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Real well.
Good. Just a question, because you guys are from Australia. This might not be, I'm not sure if it's true, but I did kind of see an article, and it's something about Australia trying to limit people buying altcoins. I mean, Ethereum and Bitcoin were fine, but they were trying to probably limit people being able to...
Canada.
Canada and Australia, and I was just wondering so it is true, okay, so I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that, or what you do.
Yeah. Here's a perfect example of how stupid some of the regulations that are coming in are. Right now, that restriction wasn't on BC, which is probably one of the most populated states, and same on the other side of the country. The restriction was really on everybody in the middle who lives a bit further out, and it was you could buy as much Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash as you wanted. Now, that alone shows you how uneducated these regulators are, because Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash are complete rubbish. And then you had a $30,000 buy limit on any other coin.
Not yet,
But
fun.
anyone who knows crypto knows you could just buy an unlimited amount of ETH, go to a decentralized exchange like Uniswap, and buy whatever you want. Right? So there's no way to actually enforce that, except for at the centralized exchange level, right, at that point. So, you know, I think they're pretty poorly thought out, frankly, on that front. But I don't think it'll be the last time we see this. You know, it's
Good news, I feel like my congestion is not bad at all right
fiat
now.
currency for as long as they can, until they can transition everybody to their own central bank digital currencies. So I won't be surprised to see more purchase limits like that. Ben, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just echo that. No, I didn't see that story in particular, but I think you know, even after the Tornado Cash ban that happened, you know, recently, the initial article came out and said, right, anyone that uses this, you know, it's now illegal, and you know, we're going to be, you know, pushing down pretty harsh penalties. And then a bunch of crypto folk just went and dusted a bunch of like celebrities through Tornado Cash, and like basically made their accounts go through Tornado Cash. And then, you know, when it first came out, I did a podcast on it, and it was basically, look, you know, like, it's going to be very hard for them to track and actually, you know, track down who uses Tornado Cash. And it still has, like, I'm not sure, $13 to $15 million of, you know, daily active volume. Like, it, you know, it's going to be next to impossible to track. But I think what happens is the governments tend to not really know, or it's not really the government, some sort of agency within the government comes out with this claim, and then they realise it's probably not that possible, and then they sort of backtrack afterwards when they realise, actually, that's probably not going to be easy to do. So, yeah, look, like Rhys said, yeah, I'm not familiar with the article particularly, but you know, some of this stuff is pretty nonsense in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's going to take years to refine this stuff to a point where people are actually happy with it, and you know, some forward-thinking governments are actually engaging the community, the industry leaders, to create regulations that protect investors while still enabling innovation, right? Because we don't want to we're not here to rebuild the financial system we already have in a digital world. We're here to rebuild it for ourselves, right? To make the whole thing more equitable. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really important to pay attention to.
Hey, appreciate you, Spider.
Yeah, all right, guys. I think we might wrap it up there. Everyone's got busy things to do with their day. So join us for this webinar next week if you can make it. We'll definitely look to run more of these spaces, and maybe bring in some more of the Collective Shift analysts as well, and you know, really dive into some of the TA,
great.
Just some of the other components there, so people can really understand what you guys have to offer. As you know, or hopefully know, we are obviously in partnership with Collective Shift. So if you would like to become a member of the platform, you can get a 50% discount on your first membership payment, just by using the code Ecomi when you sign up. Now, that can be, if you choose to sign up for a year, that's 50% off an annual membership. So just be aware of that. But of course, there is heaps of free stuff on collectiveshift.io. So please be sure to check that out. Take advantage of that stuff before you go paying for any sort of education, because it will really give you a good foundation in this industry. But otherwise, yeah, join us next week. Ben, any closing words there?
No, that's it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. There's been a bunch of Ecomi people coming into the community and check everything out. So thanks everyone for your support. And yeah, that link that Rhys has got there, you can just literally drop your email and name, and then I should add it to your calendar, and you'll get some email reminders before next week. So that link, you don't need to remember it. You can just click on it, drop in your name and email, and then it'll register you for next week. And we'll jump in and drop some more value bombs next week, Rhys. So I had fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Sounds great. Yeah, really appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for joining us, mate. And
oh wow, they cut him off. That was it. All right, he ended it a little early. I don't think or maybe Rhys ended that a little early. One of them ended it a little early, cut it off, but yeah, that was that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You know, we had Rhys from the Ecomi team hop on with Collective Shift CEO Ben Simpson. I don't know, Bobby Green. You know, some people were just saying the OUP leak was horrible. Got our hopes up for nothing. You know, it tells me that if they didn't want to release too much information just yet, there's a reason for that, right, guys? I mean, obviously Dan or David was annoyed. Rhys didn't want to, you know, release too much information without their say. But you got to think also, when I think about, you know, so many people have asked me, why do you think OMI is going to be valuable, etc. There's so many reasons I could name and have named before, but also think about it like this, guys, too. I mean, David and Dan, Rhys, they're holding a bunch of OMI themselves, so they got to believe in it for a reason, right? And so, Bobby Green says, what are your thoughts on the golden tickets? Interesting. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back, honestly, and kind of rewatch this to kind of hear what he had to say about that. Because I only heard, you know, the last glimpse of it. And so I definitely want to rewatch that to kind of hear what he has to say about the golden tickets. Who knows? But I think there's a reason why they didn't want to give too much information. It is around the corner. I love the fact he said that instead of soon. That's the kind of new buzzword that I was using. Shout out to Rhys for taking it. Again, guys, it's going to be coming out. I mean, they say Q3. Maybe it's Q4. Who knows? But it is around the corner. So appreciate you guys big time for tuning in tonight. Usually the live streams are probably going to be about around 2 o'clock-ish, but since I figured I wanted to live stream this little Twitter Spaces that we was scheduled for, so I was like, you know what, let me just save the live stream till tonight. So appreciate you guys for tuning in, those that stayed up for it. If not, feel free to watch it back. I will be probably live streaming pretty much daily. Just come home from work and before I head out to the course, go live for probably like 30 minutes. It's hard for me to do a Veve live stream that doesn't last an hour, so hopefully we cut it short to about 45 minutes. It's tough though, but appreciate you guys big time. Leave a comment, let me know what you guys thought of the video. Let me know when do you guys think OUP is gonna be released. Till next time, I'm signing out. It's your boy Johnny Dunn. We out, fam.